This video is called Tomahawk Madness. I start off with some 12 or 15 layer Damascus made in a previous video here, and I'm going to twist it. Here I am putting quite a bit of twists. I don't want too fine of a pattern on this, so I'm keeping the twists at a low level, and this was a pretty bold low layer count Damascus. So 12 layers with medium twists is kind of what it looks like. I'm making two tomahawks. So here's the twist Damascus. I kind of drew out what the striations kind of look at like here. You can see. And now I have the other tomahawk will be made from ball bearing Damascus. I love this pattern. And this is from a previous video. I'll put a link to how I make this ball bearing Damascus. But yeah, love this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to start by flattening these out. And I got to get these wide enough for these tomahawk blades. Now the sockets will be machined on my lathe out of mild steel. So I just have to get the blade of these forged out. So I'm going to use my drawing dies here sideways to stretch this and widen this pattern. And then once I get it wide enough, I can turn and draw these out laterally. So this is the twist Damascus that I'm widening right now. And you can really see this metal. This metal stretches and moves really well onto this hammer. I'm currently running at 30 tons. This press will go up to 40 tons, but I'm only running at about 30 right now. And I rarely use that. I have a little limiter that limits the PSI in the hydraulic system. So here's the twist Damascus tomahawk blade. You can almost see some of the pattern in it, and I got my little kind of outline of the blade. Now this is the ball bearing Damascus. And this material is actually a little bit harder. When even up at these elevated temperatures, you can still see these bearings are very strong material. They don't move or stretch as much, but so you kind of have to kind of inch your way along. You can't really mash down on it, small little increments. But you can see this tomahawk shape is going to be like a fan. It'll be a curved blade, and you can see I'm getting that shape here on this. Once I get this shape, I kind of draw it out. So here is the ball bearing Damascus blade. And I have a little profile there. So I rough grind these down and I get all the scale off, and you can see I'm kind of shaping it. Now, this blade's going to have this curved little shape. The other blade will just be like a straight blade, but now these are going to get welded to some mild steel sockets. So I have some 1/4 inch wall tubing here. It's inch and 3/4. So it's 1.750 inch and 3/4 in diameter with 1/4 inch wall thickness. So I'm cutting these 3 grooves in with a special cutter I ground. You can see this little curved cutter there, and it produces these little round grooves. I machine 3 of them, and then I part this off, and that's kind of the socket. I make 2 of these, one for each tomahawk. Now I'm cutting. Here's both of these after they've been run on my sander and cleaned up a little bit, and they're identical. So I'm gonna run an annular cutter, and I cut this radius kind of profile. It's 1.5 inch diameter. I cut this in the bottom of the socket, and then I mill a groove for the blade to nest into. So the blade actually kind of presses into this and is recessed. Now, I don't have any shots of this welding, but I welded this up, and I did a preheat, and I welded it, and then I did a post-heat treat on weld as well. Welding mild steel to high carbon steel can be problematic, but if you take the proper steps, um, it works fine. I've had no problems with these after quite a few throws and chopping tests. So this is after the blending, after I did quite a bit of blending and hand sanding, but now I had to be careful. I couldn't quench where the weld area, where the weld is the join between the high carbon and the medium or low carbon steel socket. So I had to be careful when I was quenching that. So I really only hardened the outer, the edge of these. Now I sand these out to 600 grit. 600 grit. And then I'm going to put bevel on these and sharpen them. And I was a little concerned a hamon line would appear. on the, because I only heat treated about halfway down this, but I didn't find that to be the case. So some steels will have a hardening line, you can see. Now, when you're sharpening these, you'll find you have to sharpen these down. It'll actually form a wire. A wire will form along that edge. And then I remove it by going further and further in grit up to 600. And then I use a leather strop or a felt wheel to remove that a burr and polish that. Well, here's the handle. The handle is going to be made out of inch and 1/4 oak that the sides have been ground and sanded flat. So I have these flats sanded on there, and the top that gets pressed into the socket remains round. So this is the stain I use. It's also a sealer. It's really good. It's a satin sealer. And I really like it. It doesn't really overpower the wood. You can still see the grain and some of the little variegation but it offers excellent protection. And it's a single application. I really like it. It's made by Bear Polystain. So look at this pattern, guys. This ball bearing Damascus is just insane. I got some better shots of it coming up, but this is just me parkerizing the socket. So etching it, when you etch the blade in ferric chloride, it's not the most durable finish, but parkerizing is a very durable finish. So I parkerize these sockets, and it turns a nice, real dark black. Maybe more of a grayish, but it turns really dark. So here I am. These were a pretty tight fit. I had the interference fit just perfect. Now this is the first shot you see of the twist Damascus blade. Came out beautiful, but now I use these circular instead of using like a wood wedge. I use these circular ones. I use two of them, and they kind of uniformly press outward in all directions. They're pretty handy for a round socket. So the leather wrap, I want the leather wrap, and this is a medium weight leather. I cut into strips, and I did a crisscross pattern, and I used these tacks. They're actually upholstery tacks, and I really like the square, rectangular looking head, and they're not all uniform. Each one of these tacks is a little different, and it kind of gives a hand forged look. If you actually make your own nails, they won't be very uniform. Well, here's the finished product, guys. This just came out. Look at this pattern. It's just sick. Pair of these, like why make one when you can make two for twice the price? It's a saying we had to say. We always would say in the military. But this wrap came out. It's very sturdy. I love the way it really improves the grip. And these tomahawks are principally made for throwing. So it allows you to index the handle in the same spot every time when you're throwing it. So, and these sockets came out perfectly pressed into the wood. No play, no movement. They're very stout. The weight is perfect for throwing, but it still makes an okay chopping tool. And I love the colors, the balance of the colors. I love the contrast between the kind of a little bit of red in the leather and then the grays and blacks of the blades. I think it's just a wonderful visual balance. I like the color kind of palette on these. And the ball bearings do come out much darker. Now, these things are razor sharp, and I mean razor sharp. So I had to make some leather sheaths for these so you can transport them safely. So if you're just carrying these things and you grab it wrong, you can easily cut yourself. Matter of fact, I cut my thumb pretty bad while I was handling these. So I made a couple other sheaths, guys. Now, I don't show it in the video. It's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but maybe I'll make another video on how I make these. But the curved tomahawk I made out of a much heavier, thicker leather. And the straight bladed tomahawk, I used a lighter grade of leather. But they both turned out really nice. And I did them kind of quick. There's a few little imperfections with them. I could have really took my time and made them polished, but I was kind of in a hurry to get these sheaths done. It was almost an afterthought, to be honest with you, but it turned out nice, and they really protect these blades and protect your hands too. These things are sharp, and You could shave with one of these things. It was that sharp. Anyway, so I'm glad I got these sheaths on here. But let me know what you guys think. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching this, and I'll see you guys on the next one.